This is Dr. George Moritz, founder of the Hormonal Blueprint System. I'm really glad you tuned in today. And for many of you, there's a secret reason, something deep inside that makes you want to tune in today. And as you listen to success stories that could be your success stories, I want you to think of a couple things. Number one, I want you to think about the real reason that you're tuning in today. Maybe it's to supercharge your relationships. Maybe it's to rev up your metabolism. Maybe you'd like to think and feel like you did when you were in your 20s. But whatever the reason is, pay close attention. Identify yourself with some of the real success stories that this system has produced. And at the end, I promise you, I'll show you a formula for success that will skyrocket you into the same type of transformation that every one of these people underwent just like you.
Do you remember what it was like to be 25? Do you remember the energy that you had? You know, and if you're that much of a skeptic, I can tell you that's the same energy that I feel I have right now.
I mean, I've lost 24 pounds in 3 months, and I've not, I fluctuate a couple of pounds, but I've not gained anything else back.
Yeah, I tell people all the time, I don't know how he lived with me for 19 years.
So, I mean, I've dealt with it 20 years, that's what I'm saying.
It's a big change.
It was a big change, yes.
And getting used to feeling normal again.
And I think that losing 30 pounds is wonderful. My knees feel better, my hips feel better. It's easier to exercise and to do things out and about. But to be able to sleep at night without taking, some pretty high-powered drugs at night to knock me out and make me forget the day. Dr. Moritz has kind of worked with me on that and controlling my sleep at night, feeling better all day long and having the energy to do other things and not be worn out or just feel ragged at the end of the day. I still have energy. If I want to go for a walk, I can go for a walk. If I need to go to practice with the kids, it's all good, and I'm not tired when I'm there.
And people notice and say, "My Lana, you've lost so much weight. Are you losing weight? Or you've lost so much weight?" And I said, "Yes, I am. Thank you very much." And they ask me, and I tell them how I'm doing it.
Losing weight was the biggest issue with me. I started out at 288 pounds. I'm down to 170.
I'm in a better mood because I feel better about myself. Looking, seeing the weight loss and just feeling better. I have more energy and everything, so that's one of my greatest achievements there. So I'm happy now, and I used to kind of not be.
If people haven't seen me in a while, often they don't recognize me, so that is a little bit of a change. My husband is also doing the program, and so he was inspired by the fact that I lost the weight and was exercising and going forward with improving my health. And so it's been an amazing, our whole family is just eating better and participating in activities fully and together.
I feel better. I have more energy, and I have got the excess of weight off. I just feel better all around. I really do.
My sex life has improved. It's been the easiest that I've ever, because I was seriously thinking about a lap band when I came to talk with him, and he said, "Give me some time and I think I can work it out," and it actually has worked out for me.
What I've noticed more than anything is actually, for me personally, is the muscle gain. I've lost 37 pounds, I believe, of fat, gained 10 pounds of muscle. That has to do with the diet that I've been on, that he's worked with me on. But more, I think, has to do with the hormone replacement therapy and how he really keys that in on my body. And when he does the blood testing and trying to look for what is going on with my body on a monthly basis, he can key in on those aspects that are not where they should be, and he fine tunes it, and my body responded just immediately, and so it made me number one, again, started feeling better, which motivated me to keep going. Then I've noticed a tremendous my muscles are growing like they did, and I've always worked out. They're growing like they did when I was in my early 20s. So that intrigued me. I mean, and it motivated me. And my wife has noticed different things that I don't know if I want to go into as well, but there has been a definite impact there as well, which you said that would be a side benefit. And so really, I mean, I feel like I did when I was a lot younger.
I did have to go buy a bunch of clothes, so that has been fun. I went from a 10 to a 4, so none of my clothes have, nothing fits. So I got to go get a new wardrobe, which my husband was a little skeptical about, but.
Ladies and gentlemen, Body Hormone Balance is the leading authority in the integration of hormonal optimization, weight and fatigue management. Its mission is to give people back their youthful energy, focus and sexual vitality, proudly keeping people hormonally healthy. What puts youthful sexuality back in your life, quicker than you ever dreamed possible when nothing else worked? Knowing your hormonal blueprint immediately changes everything because it's the secret reason why your friends don't see you aging. Stop worrying and start living by immediately calling 903-794-6962 to receive your free copy of Body Hormone Balance Revolution by Dr. George Moritz.
If you want to have fun tonight, raise your hand. All right? You don't want to have fun? Well, yes, you do. Oh, you want to raise his hand for him, too? Okay, great. All right. In the next 60 minutes, you're going to discover the most closely guarded anti-aging secret. I could make a virtually certain bet that very few people have ever heard of this secret, and even fewer have ever taken advantage of it, but everybody could. Because of this secret, life-changing benefits including better sex, successful weight control, and endless energy will ultimately be yours. What are you going to discover? You're going to discover that youth is perfect health, that when you have the perfect combination of chemicals in your body, that when I rewind you to these combination of chemicals, you start experiencing some of the things you did when you were younger. What are you going to discover? Well, you're going to learn about better sex, successful weight control, and the endless energy that you once enjoyed in your 20s. Who is this for? This is for smart and successful people who are disappointed with what doctors have told them, who are disgruntled with the poor outcomes and results that they've had. And this is for those who are frustrated knowing inside that there's really a better answer. There's something that somebody hasn't told them. So why should you listen to me? Everything I'm about to tell you is not to impress you in any way, but is to impress upon you the importance of expertise, qualified expertise, that is practiced day in and day out. In other words, practice with results. And that's really important when we live in an era of internet, TV, advertising, because we're constantly being bombarded by things. You're also going to learn in a few moments that I was in your shoes. I was just like many of you or many of your friends and family. You're also going to find out that I'm a board-certified physician. I've been a doctor 20 years. I've been a specialist for 15 years with clinical experience on day in and day out experience. I also founded the Hormonal Blueprint System, and I'm the author of Body Hormone Balance Revolution. There are 340 successful testimonial stories that have been written by people like you because of this proven effective system that I practice day in and day out. let me go through just a few success stories. Dr. Moritz is an angel in a doctor's suit. I'm certain of this. I thank God every day for Dr. Moritz and his staff. The way that I feel now is totally opposite how I felt walking into his office for the first time. And she lists multiple things. She lost 28 pounds, she has no more hot flashes, energy is great, sleeps through the night, depression gone, happy again. And then she says, sex with my husband is better than it has ever been in my life. Imagine that. Now, how many guys would like? He's not nodding his head, but he should. Yeah, okay, we've heard a few giggles. I'll take that as a yes. Here's another patient, lost 30 pounds, gained 10 pounds of muscle. Please pray for my wife because my libido is off my chart. I'll take giggles as a nod or of acceptance, okay? Here's another person. It's restored their sex drive. They look at their husband differently. Ladies, I mean, how many of you, I mean, is that something you'd like? Yeah, quietly, yes, that's okay. Pam, Deborah, Alicia, I'm going to do something a little different. I'm not going to go through all these, okay? When you all come to the office, I mean, there's lots of stories I can share. Stories written by people who've gone through this transformation, people who came in feeling awful. And the takeaway message is that these are real stories. These are real experiences. And in a time in medicine now when people are seen as diagnoses or as codes according to the insurance company, we sometimes get disconnected. And this is my confession as a doctor, is that we stop seeing who they really are. But when you start seeing this, you start understanding that, you know, there's a bigger impact than someone walking in the door and leaving with a prescription. And the stories go on. I mean, I can go through different details. I mean, I have a 67-year-old lady who's now belly dancing again, okay? I mean, that was impressive to me. I mean, that was impressive to me. And people write us a lot of letters. You know, they send us their real stories. And they're not shy, by the way, okay? Maybe I'm not shy, but they're definitely not shy. I don't know if I can catch up with all these, but I'm going to try to go through these. 50 pounds of weight loss. Photos. We get lots of photos of very successful people. I mean, their lives are different. You know, they're doing different things. Their evenings are different. I mean, these are happy people. And they keep writing. And they keep writing. Over 2/3 of the new people I see are actually referred by people I've taken care of. And they go through the same process as the person who referred them. They come in, they go through this transformation, which I'll show you in a few minutes how we do that, and they send more people. And they get on the phone, they call people, and every time I ask, where did you come from? It's from somebody that I had taken care of. So what is my story? I'm pulling back the curtains today, and I'm going to talk about things that most doctors won't talk about. And I don't know if it's because of the way we were trained. I'm not sure that we were supposed to keep a guard up, or we were made to feel like we're not like everybody else. But I can tell you it's quite different. But this is my story. When I was a child, my sister and I, Edith, when we were about 5 and 6, she's a year younger than I am, when we would go to the doctor, we had a doctor named Dr. Jenkinson. And Dr. Jenkinson was from the Midwest. He had a Norman Rockwell type practice. In other words, his wife was a secretary nurse. He went in there. He was probably in his 70s. He definitely had been a doctor for a long time. He saw all his own patients. I mean, he actually saw every one of his patients. He had this big book, I remember, and I was a little kid, and he'd open it up, and some of the pages were old or falling out, and he showed me where, he showed us where he delivered a baby for 25 cents, or if they didn't have money, he crossed it out. But that was the type of experience. I grew up in a town of 10,000, a very small little town, and this is actually the house that he practiced out of. So this is where I would go as a kid. And if you look here to the right, that's the little section, you see the walkway, that's his office, and I believe that's where he lived. I don't know that because he passed away many years ago. So when my sister and I were sick, we'd go there for colds and things that kids get sick with, and we would go in there, and you're going to laugh when you hear this, but for the longest time, I had no clue that I was getting better because he prescribed me something or told my mom to do something. I actually thought when you get sick or don't feel good, you actually go talk with the doctor. That's what I thought. And yes, I was 6, and probably in a few years, this whole myth dispelled. But you'll learn in just a little bit, the impact that Dr. Jenkinson had on me in my development is probably greater than I ever realized until maybe a few years ago. I didn't really know it. It was a subconscious type thing. But that was a very, very big impact. So I did become interested in becoming a doctor, and yes, I had to do well in school. I had to excel at all the things. I had to be competitive. I had to get good grades, and I had to start taking an interest in competition. I mean, you have to be very, very good to get in, and so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to be a doctor. And maybe when I was doing this process, I had no idea, but I guess I kind of wanted to be like Dr. Jenkins. There's something about that. And so, so what I did is I did well in college, and I got into medical school. I got into a very competitive medical school. I was 22 when I entered medical school, which only 20% of the class in this part of that part of the country actually got in. The average age was 28. So I was a young medical student and worked very, very hard. And in my rotations, we did surgical rotations, we did medical rotations, and what that really means is that you go through different rotations and different specialties, and just like your personality, you figure out which specialty you really like. In other words, and for me, I always kind of like the surgical specialties. And one thing I figured out very quickly is while I appreciate the medical specialties, internal medicine, and the thing, I'm not sure I really believed that if you went to the doctor and they ordered a lot of tests and wrote you a prescription, I wasn't sure that you really got better. Maybe it was because I was really thinking of how Dr. Jenkinson influenced me. So I wanted a surgical subspecialty. And to that effect, what I did is I did my OBGYN rotation. And the mothers that I delivered were very welcoming being in the room. It's a very special moment. The dads equally as well. And I kept thinking through that rotation, gosh, this is really neat. You're part of this experience. So I decided that I was going to go after a competitive specialty, get into OBGYN. And in my class of 100 and something, only 6 of us got an OBGYN spot. I was actually the only male. In different parts of the country, it's harder if you're a male to become an OBGYN. It's just the way it is. But I did do that. I did get that spot. And so I did my OBGYN training. And later on, when I finished this training, I said, I want to do my own practice. And you may laugh again. Maybe it was like Dr. Jenkinson. Here he had his own practice, saw his own patients. Nothing like clinics that you've ever seen. I don't know if Dr. Jenkinson ever referred me to a specialist as a kid, but in my mind it's like, well, why can't you take care of people? Why do you have to keep kicking them out the door or tell them that you got to call the insurance company or you got to do something else? Why can't you just take care of them? Isn't that what a doctor's supposed to do? Maybe a little old-fashioned, but that's what it was. So I wanted my own practice. Well, I got that too. And as you look here, there were a lot of happy moments. I was able to share in so many special birthdays. People invited me into this part of their life. And, I can't help to think that I might have had some impact, but nonetheless, the reward was mine because I was there. I was part of this experience. And, the hours when you're delivering babies, and I did that for 6 years straight. I saw my own patients, maybe a little like Dr. Jenkinson, delivered babies at night, did surgeries, all day. I was just so busy. And you get sleep deprived. You really don't get the rest you need. And you're always getting called. And if you're not going to the hospital, then there's something going on because you have your own practice. But that's what I wanted. See, I thought that was really important. I didn't want to be part of a group. I didn't like this mass approach where you get shuffled in and it's the guy of the day and you go in and people grumbling and so forth. I kind of want to take care of everything. Maybe that's what I wanted to do. Well, success has some of its trade-offs. And as I learned, not sleeping, wearing myself out, I was hitting a brick wall. And this, for all the happy faces and happy moments that you see there, I don't know if you can count me smiling, but there's a lot of smiles there, and there's a lot of happy moments. But I was hitting a brick wall because I was wearing myself out. And sadly enough, I was suffering from debilitating exhaustion. And what did it feel like to me? Well, every morning I woke up, it felt like a freight train had run over my head back and forth. okay? And then I dragged through the day, and then any moment I tried to, get a nap or so forth, I couldn't. I went to bed, and I tossed and turned. I woke up more tired than when I went to bed. I started to feel like my patient. I told you earlier that I didn't really know if being a medical specialist rather than a surgical specialist really worked. I didn't really know that, if you sent a patient to a doctor and you were worn out and exhausted and not sleeping, I didn't know if the doctors could really cure them. I was taught that you should send it to them because they're the right people to do it. You're the surgical guy, you shouldn't do that. Well, here I was seeing myself like a lot of my patients. In other words, I saw people come in the door worn out. And I felt like I was looking in a mirror because I said, I can't digest food. I was feeling horrendous. My brain was in a fog. I could barely get through the afternoon without chocolate. I like chocolate. And then when I tried to go to bed at night, I was tossing and turning. And, I don't know how many people have experienced insomnia like this, but it is bad. And so I had a newfound empathy. Here I was a doctor becoming a patient. And in many ways, as you're going to find out in a few minutes, I was a doctor trying to figure out how to be a medical student again to figure this out. Well, you might say, well, Dr. Moritz, you're privileged. You could probably get any medicine, order any test. You could probably get any specialist. And you're right. I could probably do that, and I did. I talked to everybody. I mean, you can't imagine the efforts I made. Here was the thing that was bothering me. I knew that I could not continue this, that I would have to give up delivering babies, the connection that I had with these families, and give all that up. It's everything I worked for. Did well in school, sacrificed all these different things, and suddenly it's going to be taken away from me. Much like people I was seeing come in the door who talked about exhaustion, completely being worn out, unending fatigue, I was doing the same thing. And what really bothered me was I didn't know, if they asked me what to do, I wouldn't know what to tell them. Well, go to your doctor. But you are my doctor. But I don't really know how to take care of this. So I had to make a decision, and it was a really painful decision. I don't know how many of you have ever had something taken away from you, something that you really cherished. Well, I had to stop delivering babies because I just couldn't do it. Number one, if I continued to do it, I'd be disabled and maybe wouldn't be able to practice as a doctor. And that's a very painful realization. So I had to figure this out. I was at a crossroads. So I got smart about it. I had a lot of patients. I could do gynecologic surgery. I had outlying clinics. Pam had helped me with that. So we had lots of business. It wasn't like I didn't have patients. It was just that I had to make a switch. Well, I thought, well, just like my patients who come see me, they stop doing certain things because it stresses them out or bothers them. They get a different job and so forth. I thought, well, I'll do the same thing they do. I'm learning from them, right? Doctor can learn from his patients. Well, the funny thing about that, it didn't help. I still couldn't sleep. Every night I would toss and turn, wake up tired, barely get through the day. My quality of life was zero. I just could barely eat food. I was more tired than I could eat. When I wanted to eat, everything ran through me. It was just a horrendous situation. And doctors give different names to these things. They put them in boxes and they call them this. And, unless you're dying of cancer, it's not that serious, right? What are you worried about? Just keep going. So I had to find a solution. I really had to find a solution because I cut back on my OB practice was gone. I had to give that up, and now I was seeing surgical patients, but I still wasn't getting any better. So I did what any doctor would do if they were with self-interest trying to protect themselves. It wasn't selfish. I was just trying to save me. I was trying to save myself from disability. So I got on the road with the energy I had. I went to talk to every researcher I could. I went through mounds and mounds of literature. I was plowing through all this stuff, and none of it made sense. They were all pharmaceutical studies. They were all based on things that insurance companies wanted you to know. It was all the stuff I learned in medical school. So now I was going to subject myself to the same things that didn't work, or subject patients to the same thing. And I was becoming very uneasy when I saw patients who were totally exhausted, totally worn out. What was I going to do? I was going to tell them to do the same thing. I couldn't help myself. Okay, this is very painful. And I studied all these years to learn this, and I still couldn't help myself. So what I started to do is I started to piece the puzzle together. In a few minutes, I'll show you how I cracked the code. And when you crack a code, it's like this huge relief. Because once you crack the code, then suddenly you can start living again. You can start enjoying life again. And not only did I undergo a huge transformation when I figured out what was going on with me, but I was able to help families. See, my family members would go to doctors too, and they went to the primary doctor who sent you this subspecialist, and they kicked you out of there, and they said, get a second opinion, and order this test, or you're just getting older, and sound familiar? Everybody heard some of these things? And here I am, a puppet, okay? Supposed to say the same thing that I was taught, because that's what happens. I couldn't stomach it. I couldn't get me better in that system. So I'll talk about this box. If you drew a box, and it's like one of those, remember those pinball machines years ago that you kind of, most of you remember pinball machines? Some of you kind of, okay, all right. Well, that's what I felt like. I was bouncing around inside this pinball machine because, you go to this doctor, so forth. Well, it's the same for everybody. There's no advantage to being a doctor in the system. So I started to help family with this, and suddenly all those things that doctors gave up on started to get better. They all started to get better. I said, well, gosh, here I got me better. Now I'm waking up in the morning, I feel refreshed, I've got good energy, I can focus on things. I'm able to eat food and digest it, not run through me. I'm sleeping better. Patients said, Dr. Morris, you look good. And I said, well, thank you. I said, I must have really looked bad. I was really worn out. I mean, patients will tell you, it's 2 in the morning, they're going to tell you how you look. So I started to piece all this together. And what you will discover today is that I had success with hormonal, nutritional, and chemical balance. And so in other words, I had tapped into my very own blueprint out of self-interest to save me, to make sure that I wouldn't be disabled. So as patients rolled in the door, and I can remember some days Pam would try to find out why I'm spending so much time with the patients. Because they come in for things that I could take care of, that, surgical, I could repair things, I could take things, I could do these things. But now I was spending time with the problems that nobody else wanted to deal with. And suddenly, they started getting better. So I cracked the code for me, and you have no impact in life if you don't help people. In other words, if you have a secret and it helps you, but then you can't take that secret and again push it over and help somebody else, what have you done? And why did I go into medicine? Well, I guess I want to be like Dr. Jenkinson. Maybe I like the idea of helping people. Maybe I like using my head so that I could figure out what's going on. I like using my hands to repair things because I'm a surgeon. So I thought, this is just a great field. Well, here's an opportunity for me now to go outside this box that I'll talk about in just a minute to get better. So I developed this, what we now know as the hormonal blueprint system, the body hormone balance programs. And what does this come down to? Well, if there's any point in our discussion today that you would write anything down, now would be it. Does everybody have a pen? Everybody got a pen? I want to give everybody a chance to pen. If you forgot everything I told you today, my story, all the other things, this would be the stuff that you would write down. This is so critically significant. And if you don't write it down and you walk away today and this is just a blur, then you've missed a really great opportunity. Okay? I have people who travel over the country to understand this, and once you see it and you write it down and you pay attention to it, it's going to make so much sense to you. The 5 essential truths about hormones. First of all, what are hormones? Well, they're chemical messengers that flow through the blood, throughout the body, and account for everything from adolescent development to sexual reproduction to repair of the body, and basically gives the characteristics of why men are men and women are women. You hear a lot about hormonal imbalance, but what really are these problems? Well, let me reiterate something. First of all, people first realize what hormones are when they see young people in adolescence. In other words, young men start to look like young men and women start to look like young women. In other words, they go through sexual development. That's the first place that most people identify the role of hormones, particularly sex hormones. Number 2, the brain. That's why young men feel confident and young women are happy and optimistic when they're young, because hormones have what we call a neurosteroid effect on their brain. Number 3, the immune system. Hormones are what we call in medicine immunomodulators, a fancy term for saying that they modify the immune system. That's why when people get sick when they're young, they seem to recover so quickly. Number 4, recovery. Everything from blood flow to tissues, recovering from injury. Every time you see a young person get hurt, they seem to always do a little better than if they had that injury later in life. It's due to hormones. Hormones help repair and recover tissue. Number 5, this is extremely critical. Why is it that young people don't seem to age? Well, hormones as an entire group work as an interactive group of chemicals. They basically repair and upkeep the body and keep it from aging inside out. So that's why people, as they age, they get further out from their perfect combination of hormones. These chemical messengers, which we call hormones, help prevent the body from breaking itself down when you're young. But as you get older and you have deficiencies and imbalances, then the body starts showing what we call aging, or in many cases premature aging. In some cases it occurs as early as the late 20s and early 30s. As an example, I see clients all the time coming to me at younger and younger ages. So, in summary, hormones are very critical. They have 5 important functions. They affect sexual development characteristics, they affect the brain, they affect the immune system, they help you recover, and ultimately they keep you looking and feeling like you did years ago. A word or two about mistakes when it comes to hormones. So what is the big mistake that we're facing when it comes to hormones? Well, the typical approach is to go to the doctor in middle age, and usually what happens is the doctor tries to correct 1 or 2 deficiencies. See, they're assuming that you just started to age and then correcting 1 or 2 deficiencies, particularly the sex hormones, is going to really help you stop aging. Well, as we know from our discussion that's going to be coming up today, you will know a whole lot better. You will have realized that hormones had a lot of things to do in your younger years, and the further you are from this perfect balancing of hormones, the more likely you are to be aging. And those are the 5 essential truths about hormones. So, accepted fact number 1, youth is perfect health. So when you were 20, think back to a photograph or what you were doing at the time. Things were good. Energy was good, you were thinking good, you're optimistic, you certainly didn't have any fat on the belly area, sexual, everything was good. Okay, so that's accepted fact number 1. Accepted fact number 2 is at that point in your life, 20 years of age, you had the perfect balance of chemicals, hormones in your body. And every one of you here and everyone outside of this room has one. It was the exact same one that I had, but no one ever taught me about this. I had to go discover this. I had to crack the code. And when you look at this blueprint, it was really, really perfect. And so every 10, 20, 30 years you get away from this blueprint, you start becoming ill. You start going to the doctor. I don't know how many of you went to the doctor for anything at age 20, but I guarantee you, you probably went a whole bunch more later, right? Yeah. So accepted fact number 2 is you had your hormonal blueprint, the perfect combination. So think about this. You're building a house. My dad's an engineer, so we worked with architects and other engineers to design things, bridges, highways, and so take a building. Take this building. You have a blueprint, and on that blueprint, it's all measured out. Everything's supposed to be done right. You build it. What happens in a few years? Things settle, structural things happen, but you still had a blueprint. Well, your body's the same way, okay? So maybe as my dad, who pounded this into me when I used to draft and to do design work for him so I could get through school, is you have a blueprint. And so I started thinking about that. See, I had a lot of good influences. I just had to go back to the basics. A lot of young people reject advice from people because it's not relevant to me. But if I had forgotten that, I would have never looked at the blueprint. I started thinking about that. So you have this perfect blueprint. And when you are rewound, when you are brought back to this blueprint that you had, then all the other things that you experienced when you're younger start happening again. Let me put it another way. When When you're 20 years old, it doesn't matter if you sleep right. It doesn't matter if you eat right. It doesn't matter, I mean, the next day you wake up, you have lots of energy, and you certainly don't have any sexual trouble. Agreed? I see a few nods, okay. Some people are thinking about it, okay. Had I met you at age 20, I would have dragged you into my office against your will because you're too healthy. You don't need a doctor. I would have brought you in, I would have drawn your blood, done this real comprehensive questionnaire, interviewed you to death. You would have hated me. Then I would have taken this information, put it in a time capsule, get a shovel, bury it. Say, look, when you get sick, you come back 10, 20, 30 years later, we'll go out and dig it out. And that's what we would do. So you would come back later when you're not well, we would go outside, I'd get the shovel, pull it out and say, here was that blueprint you had. And this is what we're going to do, we're going to take you back. Just like that building I told you about. Very simple concept. But it took me my entire career to figure it out. And in this perfect combination, we start seeing your secret of your hormonal blueprint. So through this magical process, you start performing, feeling, and even looking like you did in your 20s. That's what all those people were writing about earlier. They were writing about experiencing the hormonal blueprint. So lots of benefits, lots of benefits. And these benefits, what do they really mean to people? Well, their evenings are different. They enjoy their relationships better. They have better energy through the day. They don't have trouble with weight gain like they do later on in life. So it's very, very, very critical for these people. And here's a point. If you're going to write something down, and I understand that I'm a wolf in a kind of a lone wolf in a prairie on this one, but many medical problems are not really medical problems at all when you have your hormonal blueprint. Well, how do you know this? When you were 20. Were you all sick when you were 20? No, not at all. And so that astounds doctors. I have people come to me, and when we put them through this process, and their doctor's still shaking their head, saying, well, you couldn't be better, you couldn't do this. Well, they're not understanding it, okay? That's okay, that's okay. So the big question comes up, Dr. Moritz, you're wondering, why can't I do this whole blueprint thing with my regular doctor? Why can't I do this in the medical system as we have it today? Well, you've got to think outside the box, okay? And that's what I was forced to do to save me, okay? I was being very self-interest-ish, if that's a word, okay? I don't want to say selfish, because I don't believe I'm selfish, but I had to save me so I could help other people. But really, I had to save me. Because even if I couldn't help other people, I was still having to save me. In this cartoon, if you can see it, there are two guys here, and it says, I've stopped thinking outside the box. Now I color outside the lines, okay? And that's how I felt, okay? This sums it up perfectly. So here's this box again that I've described. You've got this box, okay? And let's just say your family doctor, primary doctor is here, and then in my case, it was the sleep specialist, then you go to the rheumatologist, and then you get a second opinion, and there's more tests. I couldn't get better. It didn't matter. It just didn't matter. As soon as I started going outside the box, I started getting better. So if you go to your doctor and you say, look, I want my hormonal blueprint back. Well, if you go to the medical endocrinologist and they work in diabetes, they might look at that. If you go to the family doctor, they might look at your thyroid. OBGYN look at your female hormones. If you're a male, you go to the urologist, he said, oh, here's some low T male hormone stuff, and so forth. It's entirely dysfunctional. See, I couldn't get better, okay? And why should a doctor who has the inside route on everything? I mean, I could make calls. I mean, I could talk to a lot of people that you wouldn't even imagine. They would take my calls, answer my questions, but they couldn't help me. So it's useless. So when people say to me, yeah, but can't I just go in this box and go to all these different doctors and do it? No, they'll kick you out of the office. They'll give you as much time as they gave me. I was a problem to them. I was something that a synthetic prescription couldn't fix. So can you access it outside the box? Well, it didn't work for me, okay? And I'm sharing that with you. And that's a pretty big confession, okay? Because a lot of people would laugh and say, why is this doctor up there telling his story? Well, I think you need to hear the story of why I do this. I don't do this to be different, okay? I did it for survival. And the people I see, they too need this as well. And they ask me for this. So as I look around the room tonight, I don't know what the real reason you came here tonight, and maybe it was, to get the secret formula for better sex. Maybe you were looking for a way to tap into that metabolism you had when you were younger, or perhaps you were trying to crank up that energy and focus that you once enjoyed years ago. But whatever the reason that you came here tonight, I want you to get one simple thing, that with the proper guidance, you now can start enjoying the benefits of feeling young again. So now you know how simple it is to supercharge your sex life. You now know how simple it is to tap into proper weight control. And you now know how simple it is to start energizing your body and your brain. Now, something I do have to go through, who is all this not for? Okay? This is very, very important. So, if you are the type of person who believes that the insurance companies, who are financially motivated, the middleman as we call it, if you believe that they are the path, in other words, they are the guardian, kind of the people who are looking out for you and are creating programs and access and coverage to get you better, then none of this is for you. None of this, okay? If you are the type of person who would be ashamed, afraid to believe that maybe the doctors you've seen, even if they were long-term doctors, if you're afraid to believe or feel ashamed that maybe they haven't told you everything, they don't know everything, or maybe they're just not doing everything the way you like it, this is definitely not for you. If you are the type of person who would be afraid to believe that the pharmaceutical companies are creating synthetic medicines that have no short or long-term side effects, and these are really good for you, and that when you were 20 years of age, your body was really deficient in these things, because remember, they're not motivated by profit. They're here to help you. Well, then this is definitely not for you. And if you are the type of person who could stare me in the face and say, Dr. Moritz, I can feel, look, and perform like I did when I was 20, well, this is definitely not for you. Now, as you're sitting here, and I'm kind of seeing some of the expressions in your faces, you may be getting all excited about this enhanced sexual vitality, about cranking up your metabolism and revving up your energy. But the real question you should be asking yourself is, where are you coming from and where are you going?
What have we done tonight? You've discovered the critical significance of youthful hormones. Hormones not just critical during youth, but hormones that gave you youth. You've also discovered that if you had a perfect combination of hormones, you would already be enjoying the benefits of being young again. Many of you have already wondered, Dr. Moritz, you got your hormonal blueprint and are living a very big life. And by giving people their hormonal blueprint, you have allowed them to enjoy their very own success story. I've been asked many times, what if you now wanted to get your hormonal blueprint so that you could take years off your age? What am I going to do for you? I'm going to close the gap from where you are now to getting your youthful blueprint so that you can enjoy a success story just like the success stories that you enjoyed tonight. First, I'm going to do something very valuable but entirely free. Secondly, I'm going to make sure that you get an assessment, your very own assessment, which is normally a $149 value, that shows you step by step how to get your hormonal blueprint. This is the very same step that all the success stories before you started with. Specifically, this is what gave them supercharged relationships, revved up their metabolism, and gave them the endless energy to run circles around their friends. By itself, it is very valuable, even if you do nothing else. So what is the next step? If there was one thing that you need to do right now that would get you enjoying the benefits of your hormonal blueprint, then it would be one of two things. Either call me on the number below or email me and say, Dr. Moritz, I want to feel and perform like I did years ago because I now have my hormonal blueprint. You'll be glad that you did.
So this is my big weekend this weekend. I'm going on a girls trip and I plan to buy lots of clothes this weekend because I'm not a size 12, 14 anymore. I'm a size 6. So it's pretty good.
I can't say enough about Dr. Moritz and his staff. I mean, they're the people that I fall back on when I need help the most. And if I need something, all I got to do is pick up the phone and call, and they guide me through it.
I mean, I've lost about 6 inches in my waist. Instead of XLs or XXLs, I wear large. So you just feel better, you look better, and you feel better. And it comes out in confidence. I don't know what's going on. I just feel better.
Well, the difference from what she used to be is when I put my hands on her, she would pull away from me at times and stuff, and now I don't find that anymore in her. You know, she wants me to, you know,
be near.
Be near me.
Yeah.
No, that's the difference I've seen in her.
That improves the relationship.
Getting to try on clothes and they fit, even if the length is too long, and that's okay. But just being able to buy stuff off the rack that fits and that's not, it's fun and cute and attractive and stylish.
I love to exercise. I love to do that. I walk on an elliptical machine every night, and I love doing that, and I can do things now, you know, a lot easier. I can ride a bike easier, and it's just great. I mean, I can walk up a hill a lot easier and do a lot of things easier, but the best fun I think I've had is probably just getting out with my grandchildren and playing with them and doing things that I used to just get really, really tired when I'd try to do that, but now I can keep up with them. It's fun.
I feel more like socializing, being with people, going out in public. I have more energy. I just want to do more of the things that I used to do. So if you feel good about yourself, then people treat you better.
Having that energy to to take a trip, and you know, I went and saw some ruins and did some hiking, and I don't think I could have. I had the energy before to do that, just, you know, all day long. You know, you're on vacation. You want to make the most of your day, so you know, wake up and stay up late, and it was wonderful. So yeah, it's probably been it was a really nice trip, and I think because of this, I had the energy to do it. I feel like I have more of myself to give. You know, more time, more quality time with important people. You know, of course, mainly that's my family, but also I feel like it helps me have more quality time even with my coworkers too. So hopefully I'm more pleasant to work with.
One of the things that I've noticed more, probably in a greater amount than anything else, is my increased libido. That is true. My wife is 12 years younger than I, and she's like, what's going on, you know? So that's been a tremendous positive effect of what I've been going through. So that's helped our relationship. It's made her feel even more attractive, which she's incredibly attractive. But it's made her just wonder where you know, who are you? What have you done with my husband? Kind of thing, you know. So
I have a wonderful husband, and we've been married for 22 years, but now it's even so much better. And we joke around that, you know, I feel like I'm 25 now. I mean, I'm 42, and I feel way better than I have in 10 or 15 years. And I think it's because the diet, getting my hormones in balance and getting my metabolism up, that it's made my life, home life, so much better.
What puts youthful sexuality back in your life quicker than you ever dreamed possible, even when nothing has worked, and becomes the secret reason that you never feel yourself aging? You know how many times you've wondered what it would be like to look, feel, and perform like you did in your 20s. let me share a story about Jack and Diane. Jack and Diane had been together for several years, but things were certainly different. They spent a lot of their time sitting on the couch and watching TV. They certainly were lacking the pep that they once enjoyed years ago. Things weren't going too well with their weight either. They were fighting the battle of the bulge, and boy, could they feel it. Things weren't going too well in the bedroom as well, and I don't just mean poor sleep. So what did they do? Well, they started looking for a solution, and boy, did they look everywhere. They did come across something that a lot of their friends had told them about, but they never really took it very seriously because a lot of these things don't really work anyway, do they? Anyway, they started reading Body Hormone Balance Revolution and certainly were impressed with what they had heard. But could this really work for them? So they started to do some research. They started listening to radio shows by a physician and expert named Dr. Moritz. They had seen a Channel 3 News documentary about all these life-changing transformations that people who had been walking in their shoes had undergone and certainly weren't too shy talking about. Then they also went to a dinner hosted by Dr. Moritz that revealed the secrets of the Body Hormone Balance program. Still, a little skeptical, they decided to take their friend's advice and go to Body Hormone Balance. Still somewhat reluctant, they did meet with the staff at Body Hormone Balance. They underwent a very thorough evaluation with Dr. Moritz, and because of their consultation, they were given a prescription for health and wellness, their very own 20-year-old hormonal blueprint. Basically, they now had an expert action plan for tapping into their youthful sexuality, energy, and metabolism they once enjoyed years ago. In what seemed like an overnight transformation, things sure started to get better for them. People could notice it too, and they certainly were happier together. What did this overnight process do for them? Well, they certainly had a lot more energy and focus, even enough time to start enjoying being together like they did years ago. They were revving around like Energizer bunnies. They certainly did enjoy the change in their bodies, being able to wear fashionable clothes and feeling like going out again. And people certainly noticed that too. And by the way, their evenings were different, really different. With all this excitement and rediscovery of what made them feel, look, and perform like they did in their 20s, they sure did tell a lot of people who already witnessed their change. They even tried to convince family and friends who they thought would benefit from some of what they had already experienced and also seen and heard about from other people who had undergone this unbelievable transformation as well. Just like them, the friends and family they had persuaded to take action with the Body Hormone Balance program was met with a lot of resistance. They said some of the things that they themselves had thought about as well. Could this be for them and all those other people who were enjoying this newfound youth but were probably different than they were? So their friends and family finally gave it a try, although a bit unwillingly. And in a short time, they also started experiencing the very same energy, revved up metabolism, and sexual vitality that they once enjoyed in their 20s. So in many ways, you may be thinking, how different are you than Jack and Diane? Like Jack and Diane and many others before them, call 903-306-2215 to schedule your complimentary evaluation so that you too will know what it will take to finally feel and perform like you were 20 again. And remember, like many members of the Body Hormone Balance family, you also want to experience for yourself the transformations that have supercharged the relationships and lifestyles of many people before you. The only difference is they are already experiencing their very own body hormone transformation, and you are simply waiting for yours.